real estate industry in general is ripe for disruption continuing.
If the robo-dialer or AI callers can accelerate at that same piece, you could have an auto-dialer call a lead, an inbound lead, within seconds of it coming in and be able to have a conversation that seems realistic. Connect to the MLS, Zillow, get comps, and try to give offers and lock up deals, and then send an auto contract all automatically.
I want to infuriate some realtors this morning. I can tell you my experience, boys, that dealing with investors who bolt on that retail campaign is so much more enjoyable than dealing with realtors who bolt on the wholesaling campaign. And the reason is they're so used to the path of least resistance that immediately at the first form of friction, they will default to a listing and a 3% commission instead of going the gusto. Welcome to another episode of the Leads to Deals podcast, where we talk about everything from leads to deals and everything we talk about leads to deals. This podcast is brought to you by Lamasu Leads, lamasuleads.com. Get ready today, boys and girls, to elevate your real estate marketing game. You're going to hear from both Andrew Rapier, a veteran digital marketer and real estate investor, recognized as a top 1% Facebook marketer, personally managing over 100 million in ad spend career-wise. Joining him is somebody I've known actually in the industry for a couple of years, his co-founder, Craig Murdough, who has had a formidable career by completing over 300 real estate transactions, totaling over 50 million in deal volume across wholesaling, flipping, rental properties. I think what's best about these guys is they know both sides of the business, what it takes to create a lead to get across the finish line. Together, they merged. They founded Lead House 365 in late 2024 to deliver exclusive, high-quality, motivated seller leads. I want to say welcome to the podcast, boys. And right out of the gates, let's just say that, what is the definition of a qualified lead to Lead House 365?
Motivation. Why? I think that surpasses anything else for the information the seller gives is why.
Motivation. Okay, but what type of motivation? Like, what are we talking about? A motivation to hear an offer, or a motivation to sell, a motivation to what?
Yeah, motivation to sell at a discount because of whatever personal situation they're going through.
Yeah, we always say they're on an accelerated timeline than the traditional home seller. Someone who's willing to wait, up to 6 months maybe to sell their house traditionally with a realtor. If their timeline has now been accelerated because of events that have happened in their life, that's a motivated seller in our opinion.
This is not on my question deck here, but I'm curious, like, we're all helping investors. We're in that motivated space. Do you guys deal much with traditional realtors? Because they don't really cross my path too much. Do you guys deal with them for the more slower leads who are just looking for an offer that wouldn't qualify really for our types of services?
Sellers that already listed it, or realtors?
No, the realtors who want dog shit leads.
Oh, yeah. We deal with some universal people who they have a license, they're a flipper, they do everything, but for the most part, they're looking for the same stuff that all the wholesalers and investors are looking for. They're just looking to cut out the middleman and get a better discount.
You know what I think when I think about realtors? I just see a different mindset, and maybe you guys see it as well too. An investor is typically, a wholesaler is typically willing to invest more into themselves. And the realtors, a lot of them, especially back in the day, were coming from that friends and family marketing channel, and they never really had to step up and put some money where their mouth is. And so that's why I love working with investors, because they got the hustle muscle, but sometimes they don't have the marketing experience. So I guess for you guys, what is it like? You're typically helping guys who already have marketing, chops. Are they newer? What's the Lead House 365 like avatar?
I think our favorite people to work with are people who have been in the game. They are closing multiple deals a month or getting multiple properties under contract a month. They have multiple exit strategies. They aren't just strictly only doing wholesale. They might have a team that contractors that can do fix and flip. They know how to maybe do sub 2 deals. And they also have a real estate license, because those are the true go-getters from what we've seen from everyone that we worked with, is like the the realtors who realize the other side of the game, or people on the other side of the game who realize, like, you know what, I'm going to get my real estate license because if I'm paying for leads, I'm going to get some money out of this one way or the other, if it's just me getting a listing out of it.
Nice. I want to infuriate some realtors this morning. I can tell you my experience, boys, that dealing with investors who bolt on that retail campaign is so much more enjoyable than dealing with realtors who bolt on the wholesaling campaign. And the reason is they're so used to the path of least resistance that immediately at the first form of friction, they will default to a listing and a 3% commission instead of going the gusto. And so I have one lady out in New York. She's really, really good, but they struggled for a while where by default, the team would just go to the easier path. And sometimes honestly hurt the customer. I think if the customer needs to sell now and they need to go now, we have to be able to present that cash offer that makes sense to them. So that's my 2 cents on the realtor side for now. Are you guys nationwide? Because I was talking about New York. Are you doing your services nationwide?
Oh yeah, everywhere.
What's your favorite
Market?
Yeah.
Do we have just the normal ones? Florida, Texas,
Texas
Arizona.
is really good. We've
Yeah,
also been the panhandle of Florida has been really strong for us lately, which we were surprised at. But the panhandle area, and then Houston and Dallas, I mean, those markets just there seems like a never-ending supply of motivated leads from what we can see. And then Phoenix is obviously always one of those hotbeds, but also really competitive.
Yeah. What I like about Florida is there's a certain people that move up north that would go down there. So there's always some traction, some turnover, but the people are easier to talk to in the panhandle. We're so close to Alabama. When you follow up after they get your lead and then they're calling back a lead 365, your customers, they're talking to somebody who's going to be like, okay, now sugar, and this is what I want for my house. It's a little bit more southern than you'd ever get down in Miami. You're going to get people who will actually stay on the phone with you in the panhandle. So for all you guys and gals out there, if you want to get easy into Florida and not deal with like Jacksonville, because that's a completely different beast, the panhandle is beautiful. So like no BS, what's a CPL typically or cost per lead that one would expect in a place, if I may, like the panhandle versus in Orlando?
I think Orlando's closer to like $100, 120, and then Panhandle is usually like half that. Really depends though. Yeah, but yeah, they're pretty cheap the further you go west in Florida, because when you get closer to those more southern states, and so aren't the houses. In Orlando, homes are median is like 400,000. Over there, it's like 2. So and that affects the lead cost.
And also, like, just from the marketing side, the way Meta charges is the same way anything's charges. In LA, and a Monster energy drink might be $6, but in the panhandle of Florida, it might be $3.50. It's just like gas prices or whatever it is. Just like everything. If you're in New York City, the cost of advertising is a lot higher. So those kind of like the panhandle is a great balance of like a big area, some decent population, a lot of properties, while also relatively affordable advertising costs. We have a guy crushing it in Wilmington, North Carolina for the same reason. The cost of advertising is so much cheaper, as well as the amount of competition, the amount of properties, and the levels of distress. Still an area that gets hurricanes, things that might drive down some of the property values every single year because of events like that.
So Drew, kind of on that, like giving feedback or tips for people who haven't done Meta or haven't even done any type of pay-per-click type service. When you talk about like the amount of traffic from an LA to the panhandle, I think you're talking about kind of like a supply and demand concept. Can you help somebody who doesn't understand Meta understand why? Because it's like, hey, well, I buy $500,000 homes here and I buy $500,000 homes there, but it's different markets.
It really comes down to the basic principles of, supply and demand, just like everything else based around commerce. There's only so many Facebook profiles of people that are in that area that are being advertised to, and then how much space is on their timeline or their feed. You can think about it like a newspaper. The New York Times, probably an ad is going to cost a lot more than buying an ad in the Wilmington Gazette or the Pensacola Gazette, right? And it's because of that, how many people want that advertising space. So if you think about areas with high population, you have a lot of profiles, a lot of properties, but less competition of people advertising in that area. And it's not as of a premium of its advertising spot. Maybe you have some local businesses advertising, but you got to figure New York City, like every massive e-commerce company is hitting that, and every single company that exists within that square mile radius is probably doing some type of digital advertising. So that's really what it comes down to. And Meta obviously charges a premium based on that competition. It's a auction system, just like everything else. You know, the more people bidding on that space on someone's timeline, how many scrolls on their phone until they see that ad, right? The people who are willing to pay the most are going to be there when they first open the app, that first ad they see. The people who are, you know, not able to bid as high are going to be way down, you know, after they get through that hour doom scroll, they're going to see that ad.
Craig, what's your philosophy for the sales guys, virtual versus local?
I think it really depends on how I think the client's business model is set up. Virtually, it's obviously less time consuming. And if you've been in the game, you know, for years and years, you know that transition, especially after COVID or during COVID, was everyone went virtual, right? Because we had to. There was we couldn't leave. So, and I think that model is stuck with a lot of, you know, savvy investors who have a team, but also belly to belly conversations. There's nothing like it, right? And I always say, like, hey, if the seller's talking to 10 investors and only one of them actually goes out there and meets with them, they're going to get the deal over the other 10, unless it's a price thing, right? But still, even if they sold it to somebody else or put it under contract, the deal is never done until it's done. So, virtual deals, I see this more time than not. They do fall out of escrow more often than the belly to belly sale.
Yep, I agree. I'm in alignment. I can tell you from a nationwide perspective, and over the years, the guys who do the biggest deal volume are face to face. The guys who do the most gross contract volume are virtual. And then you have this gap. And I mean, the monster whales have their closers being picked up and they have a chauffeur driving them around. I mean, there's some really elite big dogs. And there's something I think tangible. Now, I'm virtual. My real estate market is Richmond, Virginia. And so I'm virtual on a different continent. So what I'm about to say still flies in that face of that. But there's something so visceral, so tangible. You guys and gals out there that have sales teams and are debating it, when somebody has to walk back in the office door after going to an appointment and doesn't have a contract signed, like that, not interested. Once retail is so much more stronger to your sales cycle than just clicking a disposition in a CRM. I think just that, where the CEO can see the guy walking in and gets to say, did you get that? Tell me about that deal. Come to my desk and let's talk about it. Oh, there's something so beautiful about that. And so I think that takes me to the other thing, which is a good lead still needs a good closer. Walk me through your guys over the now a couple of years you've been doing this. Like, what are the red flags when somebody's reaching out to you? What are you looking for to make sure that your leads are going to the right salespeople?
Yeah, I think the main one is communication. We can pretty much already tell if our client had shitty communication with us, that they have really bad communication with their sellers, and they're gonna be a problem. Something we can't fix because obviously we try to. We give them, common case scenarios and stuff like that on the onboarding, but we can't fix their business model if they can't fix themselves. So communication is number one. What do you think?
I would also preface this is that some of our like absolute, you know, we know guys who are absolute killers who are doing like old school spreadsheets and tracking all the leads, and they have it in their head, their system, right, that works for them, and they're never going to switch from it. But they're already killers. If we're working with people who don't have like a CRM or any type of lead management, then we already know it's kind of a little bit of a red flag that, like, we hope they're one of those guys who are killers who just have a system of spreadsheets or a notepad that they do this, like they've been doing this since the 90s or whatever it might be. But however, like if we're working with someone who's maybe a little bit newer to the game and they haven't even, you know, invested in a CRM or some type of lead management tool, then that's definitely one too.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think for me, the CRM is one of like the biggest red flags, but my follow-up to it after they tell me, I say, so tell me about your drip sequencing. Tell me about your nurture automations. And anybody can reach out to me on Instagram. I'll share with you the ones that we use in our wholesale and investment business. I'm personally on high level, but I love RE Simply. I love Salesforce. I've built out my own custom high level, but I'm not dumb enough to think that my closers are going to care about my leads as much as I do. They care, but they'll never care about the money that I spent in it. So the way that I bridge that gap between their caring and my caring is I make the automations happen in between. And that factor right there for everybody in wholesaling, I'll have guys come to me like, hey, we're doing 2 deals, and then they don't have a nurture campaign. I'm like, dude, I don't even want, you got to just either you go build it out, go take the time, upgrade your CRM, but don't spend money with me yet until you have your drip sequencing built out, because it's going to be pointless. You're going to get out of the gate strong, and then you're going to crash because you're no longer working the existing leads. So how do you guys feel about drip sequencing?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, when I start to mention words like that, automations, workflows, drip sequences, if they look at me like I got 2 heads, I already know they don't understand how far CRMs have come from just 5 years ago, dude. You know, when everyone was rocking Podio and Monday or whatever. Now, I mean, back then it was good to store all your information and stuff and keep track of things. But now a CRM is literally like 5 employees in one. You have your automation set up correctly to do what happens whenever something happens in a lead, then, you know, it really is like having multiple employees.
And that's what we've had leads that we've nurtured for a year and a half that ended up converting into, you know, some of our biggest assignment fees in our wholesaling business we've had, right? So, you know, you're paying for this lead, right? And not every single lead is going to be a 1-call close or a 30-day close, you know. Maybe they're just really starting to think about this process, and 90 days from now, their husband loses their job. And if you're the one who's been texting them and emailing them and following up with them a couple times a week or every other week, guess what? Who's going to be the first person they call when that actual problem is now a real problem and you're top of mind?
The gentleman who got me into this industry, I think you guys know the Cazada brothers. Are you guys familiar with them? Alex and Anthony Cazada, by any chance, out of Central Florida?
I would have to, maybe by their face, but
Okay.
it didn't ring a bell.
Superb guys. They got me into this space because I was in a different vertical, and they were like, dude, if you'll just take your operation and insert this industry, you'll murder it. And so I would started sending leads to them when we partnered on deals almost 5.5, 6 years ago. I literally was just in their CRM. We were calibrating, and there was a lead that was 1,600 and some days old. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. First off, you know how many people would have been out of business that didn't have a system? But like that is a deal from the deal gods shine down upon them because they had this mechanism in place to follow up with them. But I think, my opinion is, the reason why your services and my services are unique is we offer exclusivity. That would never happen with a PPL lead because they would have sold that lead 17 times in just 5 years. So let's spill the beans. Tell me about PPLs and non-exclusive leads.
Yeah. Well, we realized it before because we used to do PPL and it was always exclusive. It was an exclusive model of PPL, but we got away from it because it was just too much. You know, people trying to replace every lead that comes in their campaign. They want to replace it. They don't answer. It's been listed on the MLS. It's a wholesaler. The seller's not really interested. And at the end of the day, we just got to break it down to be like, hey man, like all a PPL lead is just a wholesaled lead. Somebody's getting it for this much and just selling it to you to make money. If you want, so we transitioned into the exclusive agency model where we only work with one investor per area. And then they have the ability to customize the funnel on their campaign. So where what they consider a true lead in their business model is only going to be coming through their funnel to their lab.
I love that. I think we didn't hit up the exclusivity hard enough. What does it mean? Before you tell me about your exclusivity, what does it mean to the rest of the world when they buy a lead that's not exclusive?
It means it potentially could be sitting in a CRM for months or weeks or days, and it could be resold to multiple wholesalers. Like we've talked to so many guys on calls. Like we talked to, you know, I'd say somewhere between 10 to 20 investors a week. And how many times we hear that, you know, I was using XYZ PPL company, I buy the lead, I pay $340 for it, and I go to that house, and there's 3 other people in line behind me waiting to make their offer, expect the house and make the offer as well. And that's what you get from PPL, is because you have no transparency into if that is really exclusive or if it's been passed around 7 different CRMs by the time you pay for it. The other thing that's the biggest issue, I think, with non-exclusivity and PPL is that speed to lead is just too important in this industry. And if you are doing PPL and there's like an auction for that lead, like after 5 minutes, your closing percentage is going to be dropping if that lead is not contacted. So with us, the lead comes exclusively to you the second we get it. The second we get it and you get it, so you're able to call people within, seconds of them submitting the form. And that's really what we found was like the most important thing about it being exclusive and doing the agency model. We don't have to buy the lead and then try to find someone to pay us for it. That lead, as soon as we get it, it comes to you. And whether we get you 100 a month or 20, the volume is only based off the market and how specific you make your funnel of what you're considering a lead. And then we just try to maximize the amount we can get you exclusive, and the leads come instantly to you.
I love it. I want to spill some tea. So I'm a little bit older in the space right now. I can't believe I've been doing this for like 5 years in the REI lead gen space. But when I first came into it, it was people on the other side of the globe, mainly Egypt, that were like the big players, right? The geeks of the world, if you will. And so very first thing is I hired, before I ever started my own, I outsourced. And then I found that I didn't have the control, and I started my own, and then people caught on. Very similar stories to yours, Craig. Very, very similar story. It was born out of necessity, if you will. But this is how they screw you. And this is it, right? Boys and girls, listen, if you're taking cold calling, what I'm about to tell you is you'll get a lead that's not from your data set. So number one, are you checking if the leads are coming from your data set? And what they'll tell you, this is the tall tale sign if your lead is being recycled 1,000 times over, is you'll say, hey, that lead wasn't from my data set. What happened there? They're like, well, we called a lead that was in your data set, and we asked them at the end of the call if they had a neighbor or a friend who was interested in selling, and that's how we got their name. And you're like, wait a minute, I got 15 of those this month. Under no circumstances, we'll do 4 million dials a month. Under no circumstances will we get more than 5 of those people who say that. There is no conceivable way ever. And so that's like the first telltale sign. The second thing, and I love this, I think you should put a honeypot in your own data set. If you hire cold callers from Pakistan, from Philippines, from Egypt, make sure you put your name in there as John Cena, John Smith. It doesn't matter. Put it in there and you will get that call. Now go through the whole qualification. And if you don't throw up on yourself because you've hired weak cold callers and the call sounds like shit, but go through the whole thing and then watch your buddy in the same city all of a sudden call you as your lead. These guys are backdooring leads left and right, left and right, left and right. And it's the scourge of the industry because their offerings are so cheap that they have to. The reason why they have to sell the lead 3 times is because you think you're getting a good deal on price. So that's why you get what you pay for. Period.
Exactly.
I love it. So that's why I love the agencies. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that? Had you guys ever heard any of that stuff before?
Yeah,
experienced it. Yeah.
I think too, like we talk to a lot of people, a lot of investors every week, and they always tell us, like how you guys are different, or how they complain about another agency or whatever. But there's a difference, like when it comes to what we're looking for. We're not just looking for people that are going to fill out forms. We're not looking for sellers who want an offer. We're not looking for people who want a home evaluation. We want people who are going through some serious shit, maybe a death in the family, maybe their house caught on fire, maybe just their job, they just up and got laid off, So with real problems, that's who we target. We're not targeting real estate. We're not targeting houses. We're targeting people, So just because someone filled out a generic form, they have a pulse, an address, a price, and a phone number, that doesn't mean shit to us. We want people who are willing to sell it, take away their problems, be their therapist first, be their home buyer second.
Bars. I love that. I call them heartbeat in a home leads. I don't need it. For me, my competition is not Meta, but PPC. I think a lot of people in this world, they kind of have their mindsets. Tell me how much you agree with this. In general, I'm going to generalize because I'm actually going to put cold calling towards the bottom. But in general, I think most people think in regards to conversions, it would be like TV, radio, then PPC, traditional search, actual search intent, then Meta, maybe mail, maybe cold calling. That's kind of how I see the traditional landscape, except for the outliers. But how do you guys see like conversion volume, 1 out of 10 versus the 1 out of 50s?
Yeah, I think it's how you set it up. It's going to be one, you're targeting for your pixel, how much data has gone through your pixel. So is it picking up on people who just saw it, or is it picking on people specifically based off of things that are happening in their life? Meta knows everything about us. It knows our credit scores. It knows every single thing we've searched, single thing we've essentially done. So how much data has gone through your pixel? If you have a really seasoned pixel like we have, where we use it for our own wholesaling business, and now we've shared that pixel across the entire country. So every single motivated that comes in gets stored in the data of that user is stored and used in the algorithm to try to find more people like that. And then also how you qualify that lead before it can be a lead. We sometimes have a 15-step form of yes or no questions where people have to actually say, I'm willing to sell this house for a discount in order for a quick cash transaction. Like, they have to say that to get through the form. That is now a meta lead that is closer to a PPC. Now, how we got to them is different. PPC is like the old school yellow pages. You're looking for a pizza restaurant, you go to P, you see all the different ones, you pick the one. And then Meta is somewhere like a billboard. You're flying down the highway, you see the billboard, you say, oh, that looks like a pizza restaurant I would love to try. We're somewhere in the middle of that, where this person just saw our ad, so now they've started the process. But to get through our process and to be qualified, they have to straight up answer questions the way we want them to answer, or we disqualify them. And that's cool, because if they're not saying that they're willing to take a discount on the house to get this done quickly because of their timeline, then we don't want to send that lead to our client.
I love that. And that was one of my big questions, which is, what does that questionnaire look like? And so for everybody out there, every time you have a form, you're creating friction. And so one of the things with marketing is you want to have a frictionless UI, the UX, you want the user experience to be really, really seamless. And sometimes you're adding those barriers, like Drew saying, for a reason. Do all of your campaigns funnels go that heavy? Are you doing that as a tweak to like, oh my gosh, we're getting too much junk? What's kind of like the standard? And then can you share with people who are listening some of the questions that most people forget to add to their funnel when they do it themselves?
Yeah. I think the bigger the team, the looser we go. So if our client has a team of 15 or 20 people, they need volume. Those people need to make offers. The smaller their team, the tighter we go. But also, it is by preference, right? We're looking to only send the hottest, most qualified leads to our clients, period. And when we do build these out, some of our clients, they're wholesaling these things to the hedge funds. That's their only buyer they want to work with, and they get too specific, and they can't see any volume
100%.
because they're dealing with, they only just want to make it easy for themselves. But at the same time, it's like, hey man, you're asking crazy questions on that form and disqualifying the ones that they don't answer correctly, then you're just never going to get any opportunities. So it's the fine balance of like, hey man, we need to give you opportunities, but we want them to be qualified opportunities. Anything that is absolutely not necessary to get on a form up front.
Mm-hmm. I would say that we normally always kick out anything if they say the house is on the market, right? If it's on the market, we don't want to talk to them. If they say it's a mobile or manufactured home, most of the time we don't want to talk to them. That's also a preference based off of our client. Some guys we work with in the wholesale, they love mobile homes as long as people own the land, right? So we work that in. Is it a condo or a townhome? Still same thing based off preference, but 90% of the time we kick out that. we get the condition, and the main thing they miss is we do a required text field of why are you looking to sell the house? What is the reason? That normally gets us people typing paragraphs sometimes, right? Telling that sob story. So before you get on the phone with them, this is the magic is, if you know that they got this job offer that's out of state, when you call them, as soon as you get that lead, you're going to be excited, being like, tell me about this job offer. Like, this is great. That's an exciting reason, versus if their, mom passed away and they're going through probate and it's a nightmare. But the tonality you have as a salesperson on that conversation is completely different. So that's a completely, like most companies, they're generating the who and the where, right? But we want the who, what, when, where, why, how we're going to get the deal done. Did they say that they're willing to sell below market? Or are they looking for retail? We'll ask that. In that way, we know, like, is this a cash offer opportunity, or is this a listing opportunity, or is it we just need to get some more information from them on the phone? Or we can ask them questions about how they filled that out. Why did you say it is you want a full market value for the home? Because you said you need to sell it in 10 days. So that's another thing. The timeline. Is it a 10-day timeline, a 30-day timeline, or a 60-day timeline? Those are usually our only options. Because if they say 10 days, that tells us that this is actually motivated. No, anyone looking to sell their house in 10 days, something's happened in their life. And then we pair that with that, why are they looking to sell it? That's where it will say inheritance, going through foreclosure, something like that. Something like that.
I think anybody who's on Twitter or X understands a lot of what you just said, which is the world's filled with keyboard warriors. And there's something about giving your why to something, or when you're at home in the privacy and you're not talking to another human. We've been so conditioned to really spill the beans and say what we want and feel safe. And I've seen those web forms come in. And like you said, these just amazing stories and long drawn out paragraphs where you're like, they were definitely having wine when they filled this form out, but they just let it flow and let it go. So it's very intelligent to ask that. Do you also, on some forms, ask for their actual asking price, or you do not want them to self-anchor? What do you do?
Some, if the client prefers that, I would say probably 95 of the percent they don't, just because we used to ask this question. We
Sure.
track the data, and people, they don't want to show you they got a full house.
We check the
They
balance
don't want to
rate.
show you they got, If they're showing you their hand up front on just a form, that is something that we realize sellers would get to, because we can track the way they're answering the questions. When they get to that, in their own free will, they exit, they get out of the funnel, they just leave without putting a price in there.
Yeah.
And also, some of these sellers are not educated enough to even know what to ask or what it's worth. So we just say, hey man, that is a question that you get on the on the phone with them, because of, we've seen it in the past, the volume just decreases.
Yeah. Let me ask, are you guys sending them to on-site funnels, or are you keeping them in Meta funnels?
On site. We don't use meta funnels at all. Anything we found
Great.
with using any type of lead generation that's on platform, on the social media platform, just the for some whatever reason, the data is just treated differently, and the quality just goes way down. People are able to pre-enter their name, email address, and phone number, right, based off their Facebook profile, which has two different problems. One, that's too easy. It's like we want them to have to type it and then spell their name wrong and then delete it and type it again, because that means that they actually are not just filling out forms willy-nilly. And then two, when it auto-fills it, that's not always the most accurate information. Their email address they signed up for their Facebook profile with 10 years ago, and the phone number that's attached to their Facebook profile 10 years ago isn't necessarily always accurate. So anytime we've done that, or we've heard from other people like, oh yeah, like I was using X company and they were using, on Meta Leads, they were saying it was impossible to get the people on the phone. The phone numbers were very rarely correct. So those two main issues, we always use a actual funnel builder, and we like to build quiz funnels. So it's not just like a huge thing of 20 questions. It's like step 1 out of 7, 2 out of 7, and it's fun and it's seamless. It's almost like gamifying it. There's like a progress bar with a celebration at the end. Like make it feel like they're playing their favorite app on their phone, or like a video game type thing, and you'll see how high your conversion rate goes up.
I love this. You're giving straight fire, straight bars. And I think what it is even with some of these tweaks that are kind of like definitely you guys have paid to learn those lessons, people don't really appreciate how tough it is to set up one of these campaigns from scratch, particularly if you're an investor. You're managing flips, you're managing projects, you're rocking and rolling with the wholesale team, etc.
No doubt.
I want to share with you before we run out of time, though. And I have some questions on AI. So I'm going to end on AI. But I want to tell you the thing I hate the absolute most about Meta and why I prefer to put money in other places first and then Meta last is that I think that they're remarketing to a converted form is so aggressive. It's unlike anything I've ever seen that I might see my very first buy houses fast ad. I say, ooh, this is exactly for me. I fill it out. I go to your landing page. I go back into my meta feed, and the next 15 out of 20 things that I see in my feed are other home buying ads. And PPC is not like that. I got them at the top. I got them at the bottom. I'll see them. I might see some display images, maybe from some other, but it's not as aggressive as Meta. And I think Meta is so greedy, and I think they're causing so much competition that it turns me away. So am I crazy? Is there a way to slow that? Is there a way to prevent that?
Yeah.
What is it that I see?
So you're going to want to try to make sure you have some way of getting your CRM or at least create the Facebook audience, the Meta audience of your converted users. And then you want to exclude that from all your campaigns. So that's saying that like, hey, once this person gets through, they stop seeing my ads. If they make it halfway through the funnel and don't convert, that's when we want to treat them like that. And in another level, the metadata, just ever since these iOS updates that have happened over the last couple of years, metadata is a little leaky. So I would say like there's ways you can connect your CRM to be constantly populating it with as new records come into your CRM, it constantly feeds that to an audience in Meta, and then you can exclude that from all your marketing. So you're not wasting money. And then also providing a negative experience for the user as well.
Well, Drew, first off, I appreciate it, but that's not what my issue is. My issue is the 15 competitors it then shows.
Yep.
That's what I'm worried about. I don't really care if they see my ad over and over until I get them on the phone and lock them up. How do I prevent Meta from prostituting this known conversion to every one of my competitors within my geo fence?
I don't really think there's any way we're ever going to be able to do that just because of the greed of corporate greed, unfortunately. It's the same way, like if you start searching for like, go Google a football team and then go to your feed and you're going to start seeing stuff about that football team. The AI algorithm is actually too advanced almost for its own good. But at the end of the day, for the same reason we love it is the same reason we hate it. That's the duality of it that sucks.
Yeah, I live in a bubble because, most of my time I'm staying here in Colombia. I'm obviously talking to you guys from Colombia. So I don't see a lot of geo ads. And I'll go back like 2 or 3 times a year. And I'm just like, holy, there's this much competition up there. I had no clue all you guys were real estate coaches now. Like, I don't get to see their paid ads. And I'm like, gosh, there's 40 some. I literally took pages and pages. I would wager, this is no joke, 90 some different commercials that I saw for every agency or coach that I was like, bro, I just had no clue that 85% of these 90 some people even existed. So it's crazy because once you get in the algorithm, you will be shoved in every which direction. You talked about AI, and I don't know if it was Zuckerberg or somebody I saw saying it, maybe it wasn't even from Meta, but they were saying like the way we envision it happening in the future is that you'll never even tweak your settings. Like that will know so much. Our AI will know so much. You'll simply just tell us, what is it that you're trying to sell? Where geo restrictions, and we'll do all of it for you. So what have you seen AI change inside the platform, or how are you guys using AI to drive more or better leads?
It's definitely becoming more hands-off. It's already that way. It still requires like knowing the buttons to push and the things to do. But I mean, when I first got started in media buying, you had control over every single little thing. And that's what the superpower of being a media buyer was knowing the stuff that they don't want you to know, or the things that there's no education on, or it's not in the Facebook blueprint trainings, wherever it is. It's knowing those little buttons and switches and tricks and how to use audiences and bidding strategies. Now it's becoming more and more hands-off and seamless. So the way to have a competitive advantage is, one, how you treat your data, your funnels, only sending good data to your funnels, so that like for us, we're really just focused on motivated people, not just volume of leads, just volume of motivated leads of people who are going to fit the profile. They're going to be willing to make it through our process, which can be a really tough process, give a real reason why, and provide accurate information. And then so that's one way you can have a competitive advantage, is just the way you treat your data and your funnels. Only reporting good data to your pixel. And then 2, the creative, and just putting up a boarded up house that says sell your house cash, like good luck. But if your creative stands out from all of those those 15 competitors, that's where you're going to be the one that gets the click. And that's what we really focus on is creative. And that comes just from my background. I'm an e-commerce media buyer, so creative is always king.
Which one of you guys is the more creative guy? Who's driving the graphics and stuff?
Me for sure. But it's just because I've been doing this I own an e-commerce agency as well. So we can have a whole other podcast about that world. But taking that mindset and applying it to marketing in real estate, I think I'm probably one of the few people that's done that. And that's kind of why we've had the success we've had.
Yeah. My previous companies was a monster timeshare exit company, right? And so we were spending hundreds of thousands a month in PPC. And so I drove that campaign. That sunsetted about 6 years ago, never really touched PPC at scale until here recently when I launched my Richmond, Virginia campaign. And I just knew how many years it took us to where we were spending that much money when we were on Rush Limbaugh. And we're everywhere that you could imagine. And then I said, oh gosh, but I just opened up GPT on the right-hand side and had my AdWords account here. And it caught me up to speed. Like my gap that took me years to master, I was able to truncate. And obviously I had some foundation into weeks. And so I think that's what people probably are missing about having the second brain, whether you're calling a customer. Every one of my closers on the desktop GPT will click record on there. It'll desktop record. So that way I can ask it. It goes into a custom little GPT there. So we can ask it, get critiques on it. There's just so many cool things happening in an AI space to enhance us right now. So how do you see AI affecting both your acquisition game as well as your marketing game over the next 6 to 12 months?
It's going to help, definitely. I think that we have some clients that use it themselves. We use it a little bit as well. But I think it's just going to advance into more things where now AI is locking up sellers over the phone. There's no human interaction at all. When that will happen, I don't know, but it'll happen. But yeah, we use it. We know some clients that use it. And it's a beast right now.
I think like anything, it has to be watched. I got called from a competitor in my market in Richmond, and his AI, this is the gospel. Whatever media agency he has that's running Facebook ads, I saw a Facebook ad that was displaying while I was here in Colombia. So I said, okay, somebody's got their geofencing completely off. I'm in Colombia. I'm seeing this. I'm going to go through his funnel because I'm curious what asshole is showing ads in Colombia for the United States. So I go through his funnel. Next day, I get an AI call from hey, and would you be interested? And it was okay. It was good enough that I recorded it. But at the end, it was just like, okay, great. When would you like to speak with somebody about the house? I was like, tomorrow at 2:00. I'm sorry, that time isn't available. Can you give me another day? Anytime tomorrow. Sorry, that's not available. Next day, not available. Next week, we don't have anything. Next month, next year, yesterday. Can you get me in yesterday? I'm sorry, it doesn't. And literally, it just stopped. So this guy, I hope he manually picks up his phones or audits his process, because it's not good enough where you can just turn it all the way over to AI. You need to be watching it and watching it grow. And so I guess let's close out with you. Your opinions, Drew. Where's AI taking you over the next 12 months in your marketing efforts?
I think it's advancing faster than probably we can keep up with it. But I think that's definitely like, if the way AI is advanced in a lot of sectors, like the image generation sector, as far as like being able to generate like Google's new like video generator, if the robo dialer or AI callers can accelerate at that same piece, then potentially we could get to a point where you could have an auto dialer call a lead, an inbound lead within seconds of it coming in, and be able to have a conversation that seems realistic to the common middle of America home seller, and be able to at least get the information, connect to the MLS, Zillow, get comps, and try to give offers and lock up deals, and then send an auto contract all automatically without a human having to be here. It potentially in the next 18 months, if it accelerates it the way that some of these other ways AI is accelerating.
I think for me as a marketer and a guy who loves money and leads, for the first time, I'm actually really happy with China. I think China and what they're doing with their AI models is forcing so much growth on ours and gives us so much external options too, as these prices become almost too expensive to be able to handle that much compute. Like there's so much being able to do. My guys, we have a DeepSeek localized installation here. It's so much cool stuff. Manus is another one out of China. There's a really good video one that just dropped, but there's so much stuff out of there that's putting pressure on us. And it's truly like a global competition to be able to see who's going to have the best pricing and the best software. So I think there's a lot of exciting things out there. Speaking about the belly to belly sales, if you can do belly to belly sales on top of all this enhanced marketing, you're really going to be able to thread the needle of an excellent sales organization, because you're going to have the marketing handled by AI and being able to assist with guys like you leveraging that technology for the campaigns. And you can go out there and shake Barbara Smith's hand and build extreme value and ask an extreme discount. Then that's how you stay in business and keep on growing.
Maybe soon these nurture sequence automation sequences, understanding the times of day to text Mary who's in Colorado and what to text her and what her profile is and when's the last time she communicated, and that was at 5 p.m. on this day. So they, wait, like all of our automations and stuff is like we manually think this seems like a good idea, and this is based off what's worked well for us. But a system of learning based off of all your user behavior, and you maybe learning based off that specific user's behavior, and then nurturing them in a different way versus a one size fit all nurture sequence could be a real game changer for this industry too.
Yeah, we should definitely have a follow-up in the future, come back and calibrate on some of our expectations. But also, I think technology and marketing is where it's at. And I think the real estate industry in general is ripe for disruption continued. There's, like you said, there's a lot of successful guys who are still on spreadsheets and yellow legal pads. And the mail is the one thing that they figured out because it's the least complicated channel. And there's a lot of opportunities for those guys to grab their hands. Let's show them the promised land and walk them there together. And so I think it's a great opportunity for guys like you. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to share some of these things that have cost you hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars in spend to be able to share for guys who don't want to try to build it from scratch, for people who want to just focus on closing deals and not generating leads. How do they find more of Craig and Drew?
Social, our website, leadhouse365.com. And then all things social, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
At Leadhouse365.
At Leadhouse365 on IG, Leadhouse365.com on the web. One thing that I knew that we would get a lot of synergy on is the fact that we both believe in, and our marketing messages are quality over quantity, to be able to have a limited amount of the most valuable resource, which is time, and spend that on the most spend that in a capacity in which we get the highest return for that time. It takes quality leads and not quantity of names and numbers. So I really appreciate that about you guys. Everything that I've heard about Lead House 365 with some of my most intimate people that I know out there has been nothing but positive things. So I really appreciate you guys coming on here, talking a little bit of ish with me, and helping educate investors on how they can get more leads and get more money. Thank you guys for coming out.
Thanks for
having me. Thanks for having us.